An incandescent light bulb ban is officially being rolled out by the Biden administration, and it started on August 1st. What we see is this will make it illegal to sell these things in stores, which will then be making these stores have to eat the overhead price of what it would be to actually sell these, which means they will be making no profit off it. The government will not be subsidizing their losses, therefore they will just have to simply eat the overhead cost. Absolutely ridiculous. This is a major issue of why government should not be interfering in markets. So, what we jump from is we see that this all started with gas-powered cars, and then it went to gas generators, and then it moved on from gas generators to no, you're crazy, don't worry about that. Then it came to gas stoves, and then they went back to gas generators, and then they pushed on and recently started talking about regulating water heaters. And this is all about the idea of carbon output, because we have to stop and regulate and lower the amount of carbon being put out into the atmosphere. Even though the large portion of people who are affecting the climate the most are impoverished people who need cheap energy so that they can go ahead and escape poverty. And then through that process of giving poor people cheap energy, you will then elevate their standard of living, which will then make them have other values that they will focus on outside of simply survival, which would then make them pay more attention to things like the climate that they would need to take care of. Because if you're worried about starving every day, you're not going to be concerned about the problems of the sun monster. This all shifted from going from, okay, we started gas cars, and we're going to shift this all the way to now we see incandescent light bulbs. And this is insane. I will go ahead and link a video that I recently made covering this topic, either above or it will be after this. Let's go ahead and jump into the process of what we see from the incandescent light bulb ban. The incandescent light bulb ban officially goes into effect as of August 1st. And what we see is it claims that this goes into effect next week. And this is an article I found last week. I intended to make a video on it, but I've been busy. So, the DOE warned retailers in January that the ban goes into full effect in August. LED lights use 75% less energy and last 25 times longer than incandescents. Critics claim that the ban is government overreach and people should decide for themselves. We'll go through these bullet points one by one. So, are these companies going to have to be eating the overhead cost? That's quite fascinating. If you want to know more about this subject, about the idea of them banning everything going from gas cars all the way to generators to gas stoves, to then pushing on to the fact that they're going to be regulating water heaters, I will link a video in the description or put it somewhere up in this video anywhere. Basically, they're going to be pushing this, and this is just another top-down push from the government because of the Green New Deal types. I cannot believe that climate change is going to be the next big authoritarian power grab, although after seeing the COVID-era hysteria, it perfectly makes sense the fact that you could gin people up through propaganda to be terrified of the sun monster. So, LED lights use 75% less energy and last 25 times longer than incandescents. We'll cover that. I wonder, based on the fact that what the government plans to do is make sure everyone is using electric vehicles because there's a ban on gas-guzzled cars by 2029. There's no new gas-guzzled cars allowed to be sold in the United States based on an ordinance put through by the Biden administration. So, because of that, what will be the taxing effect of all these electric vehicles on the energy grid? If the grid itself can't handle hurricane season in the south and it can't handle the rolling blackouts in California because none of these grids have been reindustrialized to handle all the amount of people that are then using it and taxing it, well, what will actually happen if people switch to LED lights? If everyone switches to, like every single light bulb throughout all of the United States was switched to an LED bulb, and I would love to see an actual calculation from the Department of Energy about this, average amount of light bulbs per house, average power draw from every electric car charged up when it's on the grid, every single person that would own a car switching that out with an electric car, what would be the power draw from those, what would be the power saved from these LED bulbs? Well, would it actually be comparable? Would it even reach a proper equilibrium? I don't believe so. So, critics say ban is government overreach. People should decide for themselves. And this is exactly where I'm at. The fact that I can't go buy an incandescent bulb now is nothing more than the state telling me, sorry, I know you enjoy this light more than those shitty LED bulbs that you have to stare at. Doesn't matter how warm we make the light, we can't make it look anywhere near as nice as an incandescent bulb. But you're going to have to go ahead and deal with this. I know that is the most first world of first world problems, but it's just another encroachment from the state pushing top-down authoritarian restrictions that affect you all the way to the point of being in your home. And if you can't control what kind of light you use in your house, at what point can you control anything within your house without the state? Go ahead and tell me how your property taxes are hitting. So, starting next week, Americans will only be able to purchase LEDs as we know. The official ban has officially gone into effect. Come Tuesday, which we see, while it won't be illegal to own incandescent bulbs, it will be illegal for stores to sell them and companies to manufacture them. So, this is the equivalent of, we're going to decriminalize drugs. Marijuana will be decriminalized, but it's illegal to grow it and it's illegal to sell it. But if we have you with it, it's not that big of a deal. But God forbid we find out that you actually got it from someone. I mean, yeah, because it just mysteriously spawns into existence. So what we see is the federal government's warnings started in January and have been getting progressively more aggressive as they want to make sure Americans don't go back in time. Yeah, because everyone will just be stuck in the 1750s if they're using incandescent bulbs. The government announced a ban on manufacturing and selling of incandescent bulbs, saying it will help Americans save money and help the environment. Oh, how Benjamin Franklin would be pissed. Same with Thomas Edison. I can only imagine Thomas sitting there now. He's like, they're regulating my bulb? Everyone will have to purchase LED or compact fluorescent light bulbs instead. However, some critics of the ban are calling it government overreach, saying lawmakers should let Americans make their own decisions about the light bulbs in their houses. And as I said, if you can't make the decision about the kind of light being emitted in your home, at what point do you have any decisions to make within your home without the government having a say on it? The Department of Energy says LED lights provide more light using 75% less energy and 25 times longer than any incandescent bulb. Plus, LED lights are estimated to save families $100 per year. Saving $100 per year has no value in total, so we're talking about $3 billion in total back into the pockets of Americans, so it's $100 per year. $100 per year doesn't mean anything when the government is telling you, you have to go buy an electric vehicle, go spend $60,000, don't worry, we'll give you a $5,000 tax credit, and in the pursuit of doing so, all the electric car companies raise the prices of their electric cars by $5,000. No matter what, in the end, when government uses top-down mandates on the market, the person who will always pay more for it, in the end, will always be the consumer. Because the corporation and the company will make sure that they are making more money. Because they're not going to be put into the red simply over the fact that the state demands they do so, unless the state gets more authoritarian than they already are. So what we see is, the agency has also claimed that discontinuing inefficient incandescent lights will save Americans nearly $3 billion. Despite the long-term benefits, some people said the decisions to make light switches should be on their own and not the government's. Last week, a House subcommittee discussed the ban at a hearing titled Canceling Consumer Choice, examining the Biden administration's regulatory assault on American home appliances. That's a pretty good title, I will admit. So let's go ahead and jump into this article from CNBC, and this is from actually talking about the fact that the ban has gone into effect. This came out on August 2nd, so it released yesterday. It says, Biden administration puts the final nail in the coffin for incandescent light bulbs. Rest in peace to a true soldier. You lasted a long time. In December, the Biden admin began the process of considering increasing the energy efficiency standard of light bulbs to 120 lumens per watt for the most common bulbs. On Tuesday, the Biden admin put the final nail in the coffin. The journey began in 2007 when the Energy Independence and Security Act passed. The law required the DOE to evaluate whether efficiency standards for light bulbs needed to be set or amended and required a minimum standard of efficiency for light bulbs for 45 lumens per watt to be considered. And as we see now, they're talking about raising that. Lumens are a measure of how much light is coming from the light bulb and is more modern than measure of watts, which measures the energy usage. According to the DOE, a rule requiring the minimum standard efficiency of 45 lumens per watt for light bulbs effectively bans halogen and incandescent bulbs. And I wonder if they had actually focused on the technology a little further for halogen and incandescent bulbs. I don't know if you can even take that technology any further. Could they make more energy efficient bulbs out of incandescent and halogen bulbs? The 2007 law required that if the DOE determined a new energy efficiency standard was necessary, it should go into effect on January 1st, 2017, but politics intervened and the Trump administration appealed those rules. Good on you, Trump. The Biden administration picked this issue back up in April 2022, and the Biden admin issued the rule requiring the minimum standard efficiency of 45 lumens per watt, which became effective in July. Okay. At that time, the Department of Energy said it would have a gradual transition to the new rules so the stores with inventory would not be stuck with new bulbs that they could no longer sell. If the Department of Energy lingo, this is a so-called progressive enforcement. So, we're going to progressively push you to do what we demand, and if you say no, we'll fine you exponentially and completely tank your business. Full enforcement of the ban for retailers took effect on Tuesday. The DOE does not disclose its techniques for enforcing these stepwise implementation for the rule. However, the agency's new regulation will be enforced in a fair and equitable manner, and smaller retailers are advised to reach out to the DOE to speaking out about existing inventory that they may still have on hand, as a spokesperson told CNBC. I need to cover something that's in this. It says, it will be enforced in a fair and equitable manner. I promise you anything that the government does is never enforced in a fair and equitable manner unless it is the subjugation of the populace as a whole. Enforcing the sale of more energy-efficient light bulbs will save consumers nearly $3 billion per year at the utility bills, according to the DOE estimates, and cut carbon emissions by 222 million metric tons over the last 30 years. That's about the quantity of emissions that 28 million homes generate in that year, the DOE said. Okay, we need to cover this. 222 million metric tons over the next 30 years. Let's go back to poverty. There's a massive tire burning plant in Malaysia. It's a field of used tires, and it is burning 24/7, 365 days a year. You can see it from space, and what we hear is, well, this is endless, and this isn't going to stop anytime soon. How is it that this endless tire burning plant, this massive field of rubber just sending massive plumes of black smoke straight into the stratosphere, well, what effect are we going to have on us reducing our metric tons of carbon put out into the environment if there is no reduction in things like this? If places like China are not hit with heavier regulations from their own government, if they don't actually care to affect this, at what point are we going to? Because you're not going to solve this by simply having one country be the person who stops this. And this isn't just one country. We have a large segment of countries all the way from the United States of America to Germany and France and many other countries, none in the Middle East that I'm aware of. Many countries in Africa simply don't pay attention or care about this, and it's because there are so many impoverished people there that they're simply worrying about the nature of survival. They're worried about filling out Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is what needs to be understood, is that the way you would stop pollution and the way that you would solve the dangers of climate change, if the dangers of climate change truly are as threatening as they claim, even though these claims have been put out for the past roughly 60 years and have come to no avail, well, what you would want to do is remove people from abject poverty. Because through doing so, you would give them cheaper sources of energy to use, because they will no longer need cheaper sources of energy that are dirty, because they will be so technologically advanced that they can progress themselves to using cheaper sources of energy that are better for the environment, that put out less carbon. But that's not in the conversation. That's never what anyone talks about. Even though the fact that the people that talk about the climate change and they talk about the dangers of this, they talk about the nature of poverty and how horrible it is that people live in these conditions in third world countries, but they push these policies because they don't understand how they affect these people that they claim to care about in third world countries. That's all I've got for this. Go ahead and give this a thumbs up if you liked it, a thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section below. Climate change is certainly real, but it's a matter to what degree are we actually affecting the planet, and what degree can we actually stop people who are impoverished from affecting the planet if we seek to save it. Because this is how we would actually seek to save the planet, and this is the standard which we should use. Like I said, all I've got for this. Thumbs up if you liked it, a thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Share this with someone if you enjoyed it. Stay lovely, stay great. Peace out.